Let's go across and get reactions now. President of the Confederation of Indian Industry, Ajay Sriram, the President of FICCI, Siddharth Birla, join us live. We also have Rajiv Talwar, the Vice President of DLF, joining us on the phone line. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us. Let me start by asking you, Mr. Sriram, you were one of the 3,000 people who were attending that swearing-in ceremony today. Give us your first thoughts on what you think is likely to be the cabinet formation. It seems to be leaner than the UPA 2, than Manmohan Singh's government. We don't have official confirmation on portfolios just yet, but what's the first sense that you get on what you have heard so far?
Well, I think, frankly, the event at Rashtrapati Bhavan was something which one felt really good about as an Indian. I think for the first time, it was an event this large. The invitees were people from all spheres of society. And if I may mention, I think when Mr. Narendra Modi came into the arena, and when he came in to take his seat, the uproar and the reaction to him was really positive. So I think that's one side of it. But the other side, if you see the point you raised about number of ministers, compared to the earlier government when there were almost, I think, 70 ministers, now there are 45. So I think that itself gives an indication that Mr. Modi wants to keep the government leaner, wants to keep the government firmer, and I think the indications we've been getting for some time is, as he's indicated, that they want to club some portfolios. I think the objective is quicker decision making, quicker implementation of whatever policies are agreed upon. I think it's a positive direction which Mr. Modi is looking at. For the first time he tried after many, many years. So I think it's a great direction to take forward.
Okay, I'll come back to you, Ajay Sriram, in just a second. Siddharth Birla, you know, what we saw at Rashtrapati Bhavan was certainly overwhelming. I mean, the majesty of the place is overwhelming. And of course, 3,000 people there watching Mr. Modi and his Council of Ministers being sworn in. But there is some criticism in the manner in which ministries are, for instance, being clubbed together. And once again, I'm caveating that there is no official confirmation on portfolio allocation just yet. But Mr. Jaitley getting finance and defense, two very large ministries. So will he be able to do justice to both is the question. Ravi Shankar Prasad, law and telecom, again, two ministries that have very little to do with each other. Transport, the sense that we got was that perhaps everything from surface transport, civil aviation, etc. could have been clubbed under the transport umbrella, which is not the case. Civil aviation has, in a sense, been left out. Even in the integrated energy umbrella that we were talking about, it looks like oil will be separate, perhaps coal and power will go together. So do you believe that this business of reorganizing ministries has perhaps been done a tad too hastily, or maybe this is just the first cut and we could, a couple of months down the line, see some more progress on this front?
Okay, let me begin by adding to what Ajay also said. It was an excellent event. By your estimate, not 3,000, by your own estimates, 4,000. I think I felt warmer inside than I did outside, and it was a pretty warm day. That's to begin with. I think let's go back. The mandate that we've given this government, or the country has given this government, is primarily to the head, the prime ministerial candidate, and now the Prime Minister, Mr. Modi. And I believe the mandate is as much for delivery as it is for good governance, and his keystone is minimum government, maximum governance. Now, you know, when you elect a field marshal or when you appoint a field marshal, really speaking, you don't sit and start calculating the merits of each of the generals under him. So I think let us leave it to the wisdom and the leadership of one person, because really speaking, what we need is the cabinet to be firmly in command of collective decision making and under positive leadership. So obviously, I mean, we are guessing. Number one, as you said, you caveated that is this the final list? We don't know. But even if there are disparities in the final list, I think the leader understands very well the people who are working in the cabinet with him. And I would at first go absolutely leave it to the leader to allocate the tasks that he had in mind. So I'm not questioning at all, even though some disparities you have pointed out. And and there are other For example, civil aviation does not really belong with surface transport. So I mean, there is a case for keeping surface transport and civil aviation separately. That could be a possibility. But on the others, I don't think I'm in any position to raise a question on the judgment of the leader.
Sure. Let me bring in Rajiv Singh, Vice Chairman of DLF, into this conversation as well. Mr. Singh, appreciate you joining us. We don't know whether it is going to be Venkaiah Naidu, but it seems like Venkaiah Naidu will be the Urban Development Minister. The sense that we're getting is that it really doesn't matter who the line ministers are going to be, because Mr. Modi is going to run a very tight ship. Mr. Modi is going to be in control and command mode, and Mr. Modi has a very clear vision in terms of where he wants this government and where he wants the reform agenda to head. So in that sense, is corporate India really concerned with who gets what portfolio, who gets allocated what ministry and what berth?
Well, I would like to say that Mr. Modi knows exactly what he wants to do and how he wants to do it. Having a minister who's focused and dedicated always helps, and I do believe whoever Mr. Modi will choose for this task, I'm also not aware of the final decision, will be more than well suited for it. Mr. Modi's style is very direct and very precise, and we do believe that the direction the housing and real estate industry will get will be extremely positive and will be a major contributor to the economic turnaround in this country in the time to come.
Speaking of taking the real estate agenda forward, Mr. Singh, and this is based on the conversations that we've had with people in government and also people who are part of the BJP. FDI in construction. A note was prepared by the previous government. We're now being told by the DIPP secretary that it could perhaps be something that will firmly be on top of the agenda of the new government. How much are you betting on, for instance, a reform like that going through, and what could it mean for your sector?
Our sector needs capital at both the points of entry of development and also points of exit. I do believe this capital will come in. The returns from India will become attractive once again for foreign capital and will contribute to housing revival in a big way. I would also like to say that the proposed introduction of REITs, I do believe under this new government will see a new sense of urgency and will create a new platform for the real estate industry to once again create physical assets and have them financed by capital, both local and foreign. So on both sides, both at the development end and at the exit end through REITs, I think good things will happen, and this industry will once again start creating a lot of jobs in the near future.
If I were to ask you, Rajiv Singh, about the one big takeaway that foreign investors will take away from what we witnessed this evening in terms of cabinet, in terms of the statements that have come in from Mr. Modi's office the previous night, if I were to ask you to highlight for me the one big takeaway you think foreign investors are going to take away from this?
Well, I think the main thing they'll take away is that we are back as a country. There's a tremendous sense of pride in the way the ceremony was done today. In the setting was spectacular. And I do believe foreign investors will once again give India a serious look and start investing in large amounts. And I do believe as a country we will this time utilize the capital better and they will benefit from it, and so will India and the people of India.
But are you feeling, Rajiv Singh, as confident as the BJP leaders seem to be feeling, that within the next 3 months we're actually going to see a turnaround as far as the economic cycle is concerned, that the capex cycle will perhaps kickstart as early as the next 3 to 6 months? Are you feeling that? Are you sensing that on the ground?
Let's be honest about it. It's just been a couple of weeks, so it's a bit early to make any judgment. But I do believe sentiment already has improved. Individual projects will start taking off. I would like to say 3 to 6 months is a good time for the benefits to start flowing through. And within a year, I think the economy will be back in full flow. Now, whether it's 3 months or 6 months, I can't say, but I think we will turn around much faster than people expect.
Okay. Siddharth Birla and Ajay Sriram, let me put the same question to you, and I'll come back to you, Mr. Singh, in just a second. Mr. Sriram, let me start by asking you, I know CII does dipstick surveys of, of its community. Are you getting a sense that we could perhaps see a revival of the capex cycle much earlier than what was earlier anticipated in your dipstick survey?
I think these, as Rajiv also rightly mentioned, I think the sentiment is positive. That is changing. I think that's the starting point for reconsidering investments again. But I would say the only thing which also needs to be addressed is the issue of interest rates. I think interest rates are important. We do feel that in the next 6 to 9 months, if the interest rates do come down by about 100 basis points, I think that's a good direction, because the impact of interest rate is on the investment on one side. But I think in Indian economy now, when the consumer wants to buy a car or a motorcycle or a refrigerator, they can borrow money, and if the cost is lower, that also gives a fillip. So I think interest rates will also have an impact.
But a lot will depend also, Mr. Sriram, on what the government can do as far as creating fiscal space is concerned, because the RBI's hands are tied at this point in time, given that they have little room to maneuver. But let me ask you this, because perhaps it's unprecedented, but we're going to see secretaries present their agenda on what the various ministries should be doing to the Prime Minister tomorrow. So in that sense, the Modi government is going to hit the ground running. What are you anticipating in terms of the 2, 3, 4 things that we could perhaps see the government rolling out in terms of measures, even ahead of the budget?
I think there are 3, 4 things the government can look at, and I believe they are studying various issues. I'm not sure specifically whether these are there or not. But one is, I think the Cabinet Committee on Investment set up earlier had identified 6.5 lakh crore worth of projects, and it's initiated steps to push those faster. And Mr. Modi has already made a statement. He wants to work closely with the states. I think because the real action is at the state level as far as these projects are concerned. So I think the push on that on one will be a very positive thing. Secondly, I feel what's also required is to initiate some actions for the goods and services tax. We all know that it can't come about in 6 months' time. I've heard the government is looking at 1st April 2015, but as Mr. Modi has said, an IT system is required. Well, India is among the top in the world for IT solutions. Let's try to get cracking on that so that we can actually put something on the ground and get GST into place. I think that's the second thing which can make a major difference in terms of the, sentiment and the growth. It would be nice to see them
express their intent on things like GST, but that's still a long way ahead. Siddharth Birla, very quickly, now that we have the cabinet in place, and perhaps the next couple of days we'll actually see them get down to business. In terms of action before the budget, what do you expect?
In terms of action before the budget, number one, they have to very quickly move to make sure that all the investments which were unclogged by the CCI process, plus those which are waiting to be unclogged, move ahead at a fast speed, because that is something that can start coming on the ground in the next 6 months. Before the budget or by the budget, I believe they must give very, very clear signals on the tax regime, on the retrospectivity issues, on the what BJP itself calls tax terrorism. They need to resolve it and have a clear roadmap in the coming budget. I also agree that they need to have a roadmap on the GST in the coming budget. If they are able to do these things and at the same time concentrate on sort of mitigating inflation in this little period of 3 to 6 months, I think you will see corporate investment plans also coming back on the boardroom table.
Okay. Rajiv Singh, one of the things that we see when political dispensation, political regimes change is that sometimes there is less continuity as far as policy is concerned. We see more change. For instance, in this case, we might see a change as far as retail FDI is concerned. And the other could be, in a sense, what some can call a political witch hunt on account of the associations that a company may or may not have had with the previous political regime. At DLF, from a shareholder's point of view, is there any reason to be worried, given the fact that there's been this link to Robert Vadra and so on and so forth? Do you feel that there is likely to be any kind of a political witch hunt?
Well, let me put it this way, I hope not. I think everything has been done in a very transparent manner as far as our company is concerned, and we've always been upfront and open about it right from the time this made news almost 3 years ago, and we continue to maintain our position. So, any information always asked and sought for will be provided. That said and done, I do believe that there will be continuity in decision making, and I do believe that the economic policy will be encouraged to take care of whatever the good things were in the past and try to accelerate them for the future. I just want to say that there's not too many new ideas which normally take place. It's just that we just need to get the the good ideas are implemented well. And I think that's where Mr. Modi will score, is that he'll just possibly ensure better implementation and a clarity of economic paths, which unfortunately sometimes in the past was a little bit confusing and most people burnt their fingers. So I think overall net, we are going to see a government who's going to continue part of the good work and accelerate it through in a dramatic manner in the next, as I said, 3 to 6 months, results of which will flow through immediately thereafter.
All right, so corporate India is certainly feeling confident about the road ahead. Rajiv Singh, Siddharth Birla and Ajay Sriram, appreciate you joining us here on India Business Hour with your thoughts on what we've heard in terms of the Modi government's Council of Ministers and the road ahead.